This is History Myths and Misconceptions. And today's myth is Atlantis. There are two major groups of misconceptions about Atlantis. The first group is romantic misconceptions, which frequently evolve into something esoteric. They generally postulate that once upon a time there was this incredibly advanced civilization that was destroyed by a cataclysm. Atlantis was a real place, but we mostly lost the knowledge about it. This wonderful legend came back with a vengeance in the late 19th century when people like Helena Blavatsky rejuvenated it with modern mysticism and occult mumbo-jumbo. This concept of ancient mystical civilization is surprisingly popular up to this day, mostly among middle-aged women who own 10 cats. The second group of misconceptions about Atlantis mostly revolves around the idea that yes, we're dealing with a myth, but there is a direct link to some actual extinct civilizations. The most dominant theory is that the origins of the myth are in the Minoan civilization. And the whole story about the island that was submerged into the ocean by some cataclysm is actually the story of the volcanic eruption on the island of Thera, also known as Santorini. The eruption which led to the demise of the Minoan civilization. The short answer to these misconceptions is no, Atlantis is fictional and Blavatsky was a charlatan. And yes, it is theoretically possible that the eruption of Thera in some way inspired the myth. But that's about it. There is no actual link between the story of Atlantis and the Minoan civilization. And no, the eruption on Thera hasn't led to the eventual destruction of civilization on the island of Crete. It is mostly fantasies of Spiridon Marinatos, who excavated the site of Akrotiri. Nobody takes this theory seriously these days, which is a separate subject. So what is this Atlantis and where does the myth come from? That's pretty simple. It is a story, or more precisely a philosophical allegory, introduced by Plato in two of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. We can debate endlessly if this story was inspired by something, but it is the earliest account of Atlantis that we have, and with 99.9% probability, we can say that Plato is the author of the myth. And this story shouldn't be understood as a historical account. It should be understood as a fable and a tool to advance certain philosophical ideas of Plato. What did Plato want to tell us? What was the purpose of the story about Atlantis? Well, this is something scholars debate for quite some time, but the general consensus goes kinda like this. In Timaeus, the character of Critias tells the story of Atlantis and claims that it passed down through his family from the Athenian lawgiver Solon. And Solon himself heard the story in Egypt, allegedly. Once again, this is not a historical account. The main points here are: Athenians are ancient people with a glorious past. They just forgot about it. Athenians once defeated Atlanteans, who once were virtuous, but then, as you might expect, some hubris happened, and they became corrupt. And obviously paid the price eventually, because you always pay the price for your hubris. Divine punishment drowned the island, and everyone forgot about this incident because it happened like 9,000 years before Socrates. Only Egyptians remember this kind of stuff because Egyptians are super ancient, older than dinosaurs and probably even Armenians. It must be understood that, in the case if you never read the dialogue, Timaeus is not about Atlantis. This dialogue only mentions Atlantis, and that's about it. The main focus of Timaeus is on, it is hard to describe. This is a very important and influential dialogue, but also one of Plato's most impenetrable works. To put things simply, it is about cosmology and the nature of the physical world. Then we have the dialogue called Critias, because it is this guy Critias who tells us stories about Atlantis. And this dialogue describes the society, infrastructure, and political system of this magnificent island. He describes, and then he stops, because the dialogue is incomplete, the ending is lost. Although there is also this opinion that, in fact, Critias was never finished by Plato, he just abandoned it for whatever reason. But anyway, if you want to learn all this stuff about how the island was made of concentric rings, the canals of Atlantis, and its complicated laws, you can just read Critias. It is fairly short, and there you go, now you know the original story. You can also read Timaeus and go insane. Yes, some people actually went insane over Timaeus, like Neoplatonists. Now that we're done with Atlantis, I want to engage in shameless self-promotion and grab your attention for a minute. I have released a game called Oedipus/Antigone. It is a visual novel adaptation of the Theban cycle of Sophocles. Oedipus the King, Oedipus at Colonus and Antigone. It is a visual novel. A visual novel is a genre of games when you're basically reading an illustrated story. So you have the English translation by Richard Jebb, you have the original text in ancient Greek for reference, and you have illustrations. All of the characters in the game are represented as marble sculptures, usually quite damaged sculptures. The choice of this particular style was absolutely conscious, and one of the main ideas was to evoke a certain feeling. This is pretty much how objects of material culture from classical antiquity came down to us, and this is how we frequently perceive classical antiquity. Obviously, I'm perfectly aware of the fact that the Theban plays of Sophocles are included in the curriculum in universities and high schools, so I want to provide a healthy alternative to just reading a book or to listening to an audiobook. And for people who already read Sophocles, it might be just a reasonably unconventional way of adapting the material and an interesting excuse to reread the tragedies. The link to the Steam page is in the description. If you want to support this channel, now you know the way. Thank you.